going on, guys? Welcome to part 6 of a series where we're going to be building a social media with React in Django. In the previous video we built the user's post and like button functionality, but in this video we're going to be building a new create post page and a new home page that lists all of our posts. Also, we're going to be adding in a Paginator, so only a select amount of posts are loaded at one time, and then we can click a load button to load more posts. And just before we get started, a lot of effort goes into this series, so if you could like and comment on the video and then subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because it supports me to keep making these tutorials. But with that said, let's get into it. And the way I want to structure this video is we're first going to create the create post API and the create post page with it, and then we'll move on to building the get posts API and then the home page for that. So as we're building the create post API first, we need to head into our views.py file. So if I open this, we're just going to go into backend and then views.py, and you just want to scroll to the bottom and we're going to be creating that new API, okay? And as it's a create post, we're going to make it a post request. So we'll do @API view, pass in post, and then we need to be authenticated. So we're going to have this permission classes and we need to be authenticated. Okay, we're going to build our API, so I'm just going to call it create post. It's going to take in a request. So we need to get the data from this request, and this data is just going to be the description we pass through for the post. Okay, don't want that. And then we also want the user who is creating the post, and that's going to be the user who's logged in. So if we just copy and paste something from up here to grab the user, let's go back to them to the bottom. So we're grabbing the user that's logged in. Instead of PK, we should have request.user, which is the logged in user, and then get their username. And this is going to make sure our user exists so it doesn't throw an error, and if it doesn't, we'll handle it, okay? Now we want to create our post. So if we do post equals our post model dot objects dot create, so this is how we create new objects. And then if I open our models.py so I can show you visually, you can see that we have our user who is going to be posting it, so we need to pass that through. The description of the post, so we need to pass that through as well, which is going to come from our front end. And then the created at is going to be made when the post is made, so we don't need to pass that through. And the likes is just going to be default to has no likes, okay, so it's going to be empty, so we have to pass that through either. So we just need to pass in the user, which is going to be the user we got here. And then we need to get the description, which is going to be from the data. So we got this data from our API, and then we'll pass it in as a description from our front end. Okay. So now we pass that through a serializer. So we'll grab our post serializer, pass our post in, and then it's going to be many as false as we're only creating one post. So we can just return our response with the serializer data. But we also have to handle the edge case. So we'll try this. If it works, it's going to execute this code. However, if not, it's going to return an error in an object. So this error is going to be error creating post. Okay. So we've created our API. Now we want to go to our euros.py file so we can create a route for it. So we'll just import our new API, and then we'll create a route for it. Just like that. Okay. So we've got our route. Now we can go to our browser, so you can see these are my posts. Now we need to log in first, as we need to be authenticated, so we'll have those tokens in our cookies. So we log in, we've got success is true, and we'll do create post not found. Just need that dash there, make sure you include that. So we got this, and if we look at our views, you can see we're passing in data for description, so we need to pass this in as JSON. and then we'll just say a post from our API. We post that, you see we got the returned post, so it was successful. And if I actually go to my React frontend and reload, you see I've tested this before, but we got the post from API we just created, okay? And I can even like this, okay? So that's it done. Now what we need to do is create a new page on our app where a user can go to create a new post, okay? So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go back to our Visual Studio Code, we can close these, and then we're gonna go into our React frontend. So the first thing we want to do is actually create our API endpoint. So just go down here, create. It's going to take in a description. And then we need to get our response. So create post is what we called it. And then we'll pass in our description. And then we want to return our response.data, what was created, okay? So we've got our API now. So next thing I want to do is create our new route. So we're going to create our new route so a user can create posts. So let's go into our routes folder and create a new file, and we'll call it create post.js. So we do const create post. Don't need to return anything yet. Just need to export it so we can add it to our app's routes. Just like that, okay. So now we need to go to our app.js and import this. And then we're going to create a new route for it, okay? So just copy and paste that. And it needs to follow the layout, and it's also going to be a private route, as the user shouldn't be able to access this page unless they're logged in. So we'll do create post, and we'll do create post, just like that. So when I go to here now, we go to create post. See, it actually loads our layout, and I can even add some text here. So I do return just need to import that text. See, we got that create post there, okay? So that's all looking good. Now, next thing I want to do is actually build out our create post form. So if I actually start editing this, we're going to do it like we've done with our other forms. So we need to wrap this all in a flex so we can center it. Then our form's going to be stacked on each other vertically, so we'll import a vertical stack. Sure, we're importing flex there as well. Then we also need to import heading, so we can have a title, form control for our form, give it a form label, and also we need an input and a button. Okay, so that's everything we need. So first thing I want on this visual stack is a heading, which is going to have create post, and then we'll have our form. So wrap our form in a form control, have the form label, the description of the post, and then we'll have the input of the post. And then we need a button, which is going to be outside this form control, as this is like a container for inputs and labels. And then we'll just put create post in here. So if we look at this, this is our form so far. Obviously it's not very styled, so we can just add some style into this. So like I said, we want to center this, so we'll do width is 100%, so it covers the whole parent container. Height is 100%, and then we're going to center this with justify content center, which is going to center it horizontally. See that there? And then we're just going to add some padding to the top, as we're not going to center this in the center here, as it's quite a small form. Now what I'm going to do is create a container for this. So I want this to be 95% of the container, but only when it's a shrunken screen, okay? So if it reaches more than, let's say, 450 pixels, it will just stay at 450 pixels like this. But if it's less than, it will shrink to 95% of the screen. So that looks good. And then we want to have this create post aligned here. So we'll do align items start. See it aligns here now. And then we want to have a gap between all of these things. So we've got a gap between all of this. So that looks good. That looks good. Now I'm just gonna add some styling to our input. So it should have a white background. And then we're also going to declare its type text, as we're inputting text. Okay. So looks better. We've got that white background there. And then the only thing is to style our button. So I want this to be the full width of the container. So it covers like this. Then we'll give it a different color. So color scheme is blue. And this is our styled post form. Now, what we want to do is give it some functionality so it can actually create a post. So if we do handle post, we're just going to call our API. So it needs to be asynchronous. And then we want to we'll do a try, we'll catch, we'll do create. So I'll create post function from our API, and then we need to pass in the description we're typing here. So if we create a state called description, set this description. Default would just be empty, and then we're going to send this description which we type in. So on the input we need to actually change the value of this description. So we'll do e.set description to e.target.value, and then on click we want to handle this post. So we want to create this post when we click this button, and if there's an error we'll just alert the user error creating post. So that looks pretty good to me. So we type, when we type it changes the value here, and then we'll send that value when we click post. Okay. Then we just need to import use state here. So if this all goes to plan, just get rid of this text. This all goes to plan. When we create a post, it should show up on our home page. So I'll do new post from page. Didn't throw an error. So if we go to MattMakesCode, didn't get that post. Oh, new post from page. We got that here. So we've got an error with our ordering here, but it did create the post, as you can see. So we just need to fix the ordering of the posts. Okay, so they should be ordered by the newest is at the top here. So we can do that now. So if we go back to our Visual Studio Code and go into our backend, our views.py, and then it's going to be to do with the way we call these posts. So get users posts. So it's going to be something to do with here. So that actually looks okay. So it must be in our models.py file that we actually create the post. So you can see we created that, and see these. It's because it's ordering it in just the date. So because these are actually on top of these ones, so it needs to be ordered in top of the time as well. Okay, so as we're changing our post model, we need to actually migrate our changes. So we'll do Python 3 manage.py make migrations. You can see we got that change, migrate. There you go. Now if we run our server again, bring this down, hopefully that will work. So what if I create a new post now? New post, and then we go back to our page. There you go. So from now on, it will actually structure these in order. So that should be okay for now. With that done, the next thing we need to do is create a way so we can access this create page instead of just going through the create post. We want an actual URL for this, okay? So what we're going to do is go into, close our backend. We want to go into our navbar in our components, and then we're going to create a new bit of text. So for the time being, we'll get an icon, but we'll just say create, and this will create a new one. Actually, don't worry. We'll just do create / post. And when we go back to here, we got this create. And if we go to MattMakesCode, then go back to create, it takes us here, okay? And then we'll do post2 just to confirm that stuff is working. There you can see we got post2, okay? So that's looking pretty good now. What I want to do is just change this to have an icon instead. So just like before, we'll go to React icons. When we got the profile icon, we'll do add, and we'll use this one. So we'll just import this. Then we'll do about 22 pixels because I think this one's a bit smaller. There you go. So 22 pixels. And then this needs a bit of a gap, so do so that's not great. There you go. So you got a gap there. So that's the create post all sorted. Now we want a new homepage, which is going to have all our new posts loaded from everyone. Okay, so we can see everyone's posts. So if we go back into our backend, and then our views.py, we're going to create another API. Now this API is going to be a GET request as we're getting all our posts. So just like before, API view, we'll do GET, and then permission classes, we need to be authenticated, and then we'll do GET posts. Pass in a request as always. So the way we want to do this is get all our posts from our database. So we'll do posts equals post.objects.all, and then we need to order it by created at. So they're in order. Or create it by, sorry, or create at, sorry. Getting confused. So then we need to pass this through our serializer. But this time, compared to the create post, we're going to have many equals true, as we're going to have an array of them. and I'd usually say just return response serializer.data, but we need to handle the functionality we did when we got the user's posts, where we add if we've liked it or not. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're just going to add this functionality, and this way when we go to the home page, it's going to tell us if we've liked this post or not. And then we need to grab our user, just like we did here. So the user who's logged in. Let's get rid of that. Grab our user. And then this way, when we get all the posts, it's going to show us if we've liked them. So we can create a route for this. Go into euros.py. Import another API. Should be one of the last ones now, as this series gets to a close. We'll do get posts. And then if we go to get posts, you can see we got a list of all the posts in our database. Okay, so we got a list of all the posts. We've even got one by Joe Doe, an account we made earlier in another video. So this is all good and well, but like I said at the start of the video, we want that functionality where we can click on a load button and it's going to load more, and we only load a certain amount at a time. It's going to be really good for performance, and it just looks good for our app. Okay, it's going to be really impressive to show off. So that's what we're going to do. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to have to edit this API we just created. Now, Django provides a pagination library, and this is going to allow us to send a selective amount of data in an array at one time. So we're only going to send a block of 10 per se to our front end, and it will load those 10. And then we can push a button, and then it will ask for more. Okay. So what we need to do is actually import this library. So we go to the top here, and then from REST framework dot pagination, we import something called page number pagination, and this is going to allow us to do that. Okay, just going to go to our get posts. Okay, and then we need to right under here, we need to initiate our paginator, and then we also have to set how many we want to send at one time. So we'll do paginator dot page size is going to be, we'll say 10 at a time, and then we then create a result paginator. So this is going to be a query set of blocks of 10. Okay, so that's how it's going to set it across. It's going to split our array into arrays of 10, and then it will send those blocks at different times when you click load more. Okay, so I'll just do that. If that doesn't make sense, it will become more visual. So we'll do paginate query set, then post, and then we pass a request. So it's getting our posts and it's breaking it down into arrays of 10 blocks. Okay, and now we want to serialize our result page instead. And this time we need to just look in, this looks okay. So we've got our serializer, we're adding all of that new data to our posts. And now instead of returning just data, we need to handle it how they do. So they give us their own version of a response, which is going to add a query at the end so we know what block we want to grab. So if we want to grab the first block or the second block. So we'll do paginator dot get paginated response, and then pass in our data. Okay, and that looks pretty good. So when we get posts now, okay, it's not going to be, we need to log in. So we can get posts. You can see it's a bit different now. See, we got a count of 10, so it gets sent 10 at a time, but we've only got less than 10 in here. So it's going to send it differently now. Now we can handle this in our front end. So we want to create a new home page and then get our posts, okay? So if we close our views and go into our front end, we're going to create a new route and we'll call this, let's call it home. Return a heading, just so we can see we got a new page. And then we want to add this to our app.js. So just like before, we can import our home, our new route, and we'll just have this as just a slash, so add the default path. Okay, so when I go back to here, wait, it happens, you need to import heading. Now this happened, we go to home, see we're at home. So before we actually start building it, I'm just going to add it to the navigation straight away. So we'll go navbar, we'll just do to nothing, and then we're going to grab a house. So we'll just get something like this, doesn't matter, pick anything you like, and just copy that and plug it in here. Do size equals 22 pixels. Hopefully that looks good. So you see we got a house here. I'm actually gonna make that a bit smaller, so make it 20 pixels. Now if I go to create post, I can go to home. I could go to, so I could do all of these. Now what we want to do is actually create our homepage, which is going to list all of our posts. So we could build that out now. But actually, sorry, before we do that, we need to create an endpoint to get all of our posts. So we'll just create that as well. And then we can move on to building out. So we'll do get post. That. It's going to be get post, believe, just check our URLs from our backend. Yeah, get posts. And then we're not passing any body in, this is a get request. And then response.data. Okay. Make sure you got that there. Now that looks good. I think, yeah, there's one thing we need to actually change here. So the way this works, you can see it's different here. We need to specify which block we get. So the way we do that is add a query at the end. We're going to do page equals, and then we're going to have to choose what page we want. So we'll actually pass that through here. So say we want page 1, we'll pass in 1 here, and it will get the first block of posts. Okay. So that's our, oh, I need to make sure it's like that. Okay. So just like that, we've got a query then saying which page block we're getting. Now we can go to our home.js and then start building this out. Okay. So the way I want to do this is do like we usually do. Wrap it first in a flex. Then we're going to have visual stack, as everything's going to be stacked on each other vertically. And then we'll have our heading at the top, which is going to be, we'll do posts, okay? And then the next thing is going to be a list of all our posts. So we're going to have to actually grab them. First, create a state for it. Then it's just gonna be an empty array. Then we're also gonna have to have some sort of loading. Just like this. By default will be true. Now when the page loads, we wanna grab these. Okay, so we're gonna call our API. So in here, we'll do post equals await get posts. Then we have to pass in a number here. So we're actually just gonna create a number state for which block we're getting. So we'll do next page, then set next page. By default, we're always getting the first block, so we'll get the first block on use effect. Then we need to set posts to posts. Okay. Now we'll do catch, just alert error getting posts. And then we'll do finally, we'll set loading to false. Now we got an error here, it's because it needs to be asynchronous, and I forgot we need to actually create a function to grab these. So fetch data equals async. I'm just gonna do what we're doing here. So we'll do fetch data. Okay. So that looks good to me. Now we need to actually load our posts. So we get our posts, we send our posts, we need to load them. So we're going to do if loading, we'll return just a heading, or yeah, we'll just do text for loading. Make sure we've imported text. However, if it's not loading, then we want to return our posts, okay? So we'll check posts. So if there's posts, then we'll return our posts. If not, we'll just return nothing. So, but if there are posts, then we want to show our posts. So we'll do post.map, and then post. So we don't actually need that, because we're doing it in our loading. And then we'll return some text with post dot description. So that's looking pretty good. Just import flex, and this needs to be post dot results, as that's how the Paginator works. Okay, so you see when we go back to our page, we got a list of all the descriptions of posts. Okay, and we can, instead of just return the description, we want to return the actual post model. So if we import our post model, and then instead of this, we're going to return post and pass in all the attributes for post. Okay, so that's going to include a key, as all maps need a key, which is going to be our post ID. And then I'll tell you what, to save time, we could just go to our user profile and just copy and paste what we did there, as it's going to be the exact same. Okay, that should be okay. Let me just check here. And yep, that looks pretty good. So we're going to have to style this. So we'll do width equals 100%, as we want to center this in the center horizontally. And then we'll give it a padding top as well. There you go. And then just like before, we want this post on the left here. So we'll do align items and we'll do start. And then we want a gap between these posts, a bigger gap anyway. So we'll do gap equals 20 pixels. So that looks a lot better. When we scroll to the bottom, you see we want a bit of a gap at the bottom here as well. So we'll just give some padding at the bottom here, which we'll just say 50 pixels. And there you go, we got that gap at the bottom. So that's looking pretty good. And now if we got 1, 2, you can see we're missing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if we just post one more, and if I actually show what's on here, so Joe's first post is at the bottom there. Go to our home. You can see Joe's post is no longer there anymore because we got blocks of 10. So what we want is a button at the bottom of here so we can load more posts, okay? So I'll just post another post so we can make that more clear, that we're loading more, okay? So we'll just do that now. We'll go back to our code, close this, and what we want to do is basically, at the moment, if we go to our endpoints, we're fetching the first block. As you can see here, we got the state, but what we want to do is create a button where we fetch the next block and then just append it to the posts we already have. So the way we're going to do that is every time we fetch this data, we want to set our next page to the next number. So if we do set next page to next page +1, so every time we fetch our posts, the next page is going to be that number +1. But then we also need to check if there is a next page, and we could just do this by getting this data, doing next, as this is what's passed through our API. So if there is a next page, then we'll add one. If not, we'll just return null, okay? And now as we're appending the next block to our current block, what we want to do is create an array which is gonna get all of our posts, sorry, that's Python, do it like that. So it's going to get all of the posts out of our array and put in this array, so from here, and then we want to also do it to the post it, so we actually have to change this to data, just change that to data, and then we want to get all the posts from what we're getting from the next block and then put them into, okay, as this is going to be array, so we're getting all the posts we already have, putting them at the start of this array, and then we're getting the next block of posts which we're loading and then putting them at the end of the array, okay? And now we need to create a button, so and basically this is going to check if next page isn't null, because we'll set it to null here. Obviously there won't be any more posts to load if it's null. So if it's not null, then we'll just fetch more posts, okay? And it will fetch it with the next page. Then we need to create a button for this. So we'll create a button under here. So we'll do get rid of this. We'll do it. We want it in the visual stack under this block. So we want to check if there is a next page, because if there's not next page, we won't be able to load more. And then we'll only show it if it's not loading. So we'll do next page, and then we'll do and it's not loading. Then we'll show our button. Otherwise, we'll just, actually, we can just do it like this. that should be okay. Okay, so we'll show a button to load more. Then on click, we want to load more posts. And we'll make this 100% the width of the container. And then I did spot something here. You want to make sure you have this bracket here, just correct syntax for use effect, otherwise you can get an error. So hopefully that's okay. Refresh loading is not a function. Oh, just put this and here. Then refresh. Scroll down to the bottom. You click load more. You can see we get that. Okay. So that's the load functionality. Just one more feature I want to add is that when we create a post, it should direct us to the home page. So we need to go back to our roots folder, then create post, and then just like we've done before, we'd import use navigate, then initialize on navigate, just call it nav, and then if it successfully created the post, then we'll navigate to home. Okay, so now if we do that, my new post, you can see we're taken to the home page. We've got a new post here, can like it, and as we scroll down you see I've got previously liked posts, and we can load more. It's great. I can also go to my profile page. I've got my new posts, which one is liked. So that's the end of this video. It was quite a long one, but the app is basically almost finished now. The next things we need to do is create a search page where we can search for users. We're also going to have to build a user edit page, a user settings page, so we can change the user profile details such as their profile picture, their bio, and stuff like that. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.